I'll call the meeting of the Paulding County Airport Authority to order. Welcome all of our guests and visitors here with us today. We do have a new board member, but he was not able to make it today. Mr. David Small has been appointed. And the next item will be the election of officers. With the end of the term of Mr. Thompson, the chair's position is vacant. So I'll entertain a motion to elect the chairman of the airport authority.
I'd like to nominate Boyd Austin as chairman.
Second.
Is there any other nominations? How about a bullet?
Well, let me ask you a question. Since you have, Mr. Mayor, you got all these other things on your plate, is it fair to ask you to take that position?
I can do it. My GMA thing's about ended, so I'm getting to winding down on that. So
They would hate to put more on you than you.
if they'll have me. I appreciate that, but I'm about done with that stuff. And that year has gone by fast.
I start to say you have to fly to Washington, and that takes a lot of your time.
Yeah, hopefully only one more of those. Can't take much of Washington. Are there any other nominations? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Vice Chair? Nominations?
I'd like to nominate Ellis Aston as our vice chair, please.
All right. Any other nominations?
I think it'd be appropriate, just good to have Mr. Carmichael back in this capacity. I'd like to nominate Dave Carmichael as vice chair. His experience with the airport authority and his background in aviation, I think, make it very appropriate.
All right. Any others? All right. All those in favor of Ellis?
Aye.
Aye. That's what, 3-4? You voting for yourself?
Well, you didn't get a second, did you?
I
You don't have a
normally have
second.
nominations, you don't have to have a
You don't
second,
get a
just
second.
take nominations, so. Those opposed? Are those for Dave? Any abstentions? Did you vote?
Yeah, for Ellis.
All right. That'll be Ellis. Okay. Next item would be the approval of the list of individuals authorized to sign financial obligations. Yolanda, that list currently includes whom?
Howard Thompson, Boyd Austin, Tom Taylor.
So I would recommend if Ellis is around and available most time, it's been the vice chair and the chair and Tom.
We can have 4.
Okay.
I would prefer to add Dave since he's available.
Okay.
Sometimes it's hard to find, you have to have 2 signatures, and if you only have 4 people, sometimes it's hard to find 2 available. So if it were the chair, the vice chair, our legal representative, and the chairman of the board of commissioners, that would give us 4 good shots at catching people.
All right. Is that a motion from a member of the board then?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I need to emphasize that this needs to happen within a 1-week period, correct? And when the first person signs, you've only got 1 week until the last person signs, or you have to start the process back over. So the 4 of y'all have to coordinate to make sure that it gets done. Also, it cannot happen until the minutes are actually approved at our next meeting. So,
She'll be our reception today, yesterday.
oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as we have some official minutes, she said she'll take it.
She'll take it. Okay, then we could do it as early as tomorrow. But y'all need to coordinate amongst yourselves and make sure you can all do it within a 1-week period.
Yolanda always makes that happen, usually. She's relentless. Don't try to avoid her. All right. I have a motion for those 4 individuals. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of minutes from the December 21st, 2016 meeting. You received a copy of those. Anybody note any errors or omissions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I will abstain since I was not a part of the board.
All right. Any other discussion, comments? All those in favor say aye. Nay, and an abstention, so the motion carries. Approval of financial statement. You received a copy of that. Anybody have any questions on the financial statement?
I need to make a couple of comments.
Okay.
As you know, we're in the process of combining all of the former IBA assets into the Paulding County Airport assets. And what we've done in step one is just simply carry forward those things to this set of sheets. The next thing that has to happen is Chuck and I have to get together and figure out how to merge them together. So there are some known errors in this because of that process. Hopefully by next month we'll have all that taken care of and you'll get a clean set of financials. The bank balance and the checks paid are accurate. So our expenditures and our status is accurate. It's just the balance statement items need to be coordinated.
Okay.
I got a question on the balance sheet. Under current assets, $335,000 due to Paulding County. When is that due?
Okay, where are you again?
On the balance sheet under other current assets? Right, maybe that's $335,000.
Well, we received, help me out here, Chuck. We received the $175,000 in January. That may not be reflected in this particular item. I know it's reflected in the bank balance.
I'll have to look and see. I'll have to check.
Yeah, Paulding County is current with us. They do not owe us anything, but remember, because of the IGA, they do make periodic payments to us. So it may show as a balance due when in fact they're current in the payment. So we'll get that straightened out.
And then on the profit and loss statement under airfield maintenance, there's an item on there for erosion control, $11,856.99.
Yes, sir.
Is that a completed item, or is that something that's still ongoing?
That's something that is now complete.
Okay.
So just by way of background, we had a storm drain that was damaged in the March 2016 fire.
Okay.
And the March 2016 fire burned out 200 feet of an underground drainage line that we did not know about. And so when the rain came back after the drought, we discovered that. So we had an emergency repair that has been done. All work is complete.
So the storm drain repair.
It was a storm drain line. The storm drain itself was fine. There was 200 feet of pipe attached to that was damaged and had to be replaced.
Is that corrugated metal pipe? Or
No, it was not. It was plastic.
Plastic.
It burnt like a chimney.
Yeah, it was a chimney fire for all practical purposes. And nobody knew about it until we discovered it.
Must have been the plastic overflow pipe.
Every pipe around the airport is plastic. There are no concrete or metal corrugated pipes in the storm drain system. We've got a dozen of them, so they need to be inspected on a regular basis, and I've added that to my inspection list.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments, questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion, is there a second? Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Airport Director's Report.
Okay, it's been a busy couple of months. As you know, we didn't have a meeting in January, so I'll have to catch you up from December 21st. Was that our last meeting? So since December 21st, I'll skip down to the announcements. Everything else is just bookkeeping. Once we separated the IBA and the PCAA, there was a great deal of behind-the-scenes activity that had to take place. Utilities had to be changed over, contract lease tenants had to be notified, things of that sort. That has now all been completed. The utility transfer is either 100% complete or 99% complete. In doing that, we've gone back over some of the financial bills that have been paid in the past, and one thing we discovered was we paid over $10,000 last year for gas, the IBA did, for the big hangar. And that has to do with the way, under deregulation, service fees are handled by Atlanta Gas Light. And to make a long story short, if you use very little gas, natural gas is not an economically feasible way to heat something like a big hangar, because they judge part of the fees based on the potential of the gas that you could push through the line. So we're paying over $500 a month just in service fees. And we heated the hangar, so far this year, I think we've heated the hangar 4 days. So we only have to heat it to keep the pipes from freezing. And so the right answer for us is to convert over to propane. Robert's been working with me on that, and we've got some quotes to do that going forward. We're under contract through April with Atlanta Gas Light, but once that's completed, we're going to present you with a proposal to convert the hangar from natural gas to propane because of the way we use gas inside the facility. So you'll be hearing more about that. The next big news item is the FBO space has been restored. So in the terminal building, remember the terminal building was leased by the IBA, we've been in a constant state of construction since 2013. So we've had bare concrete, we've had unpainted sheetrock, we've had holes in the wall. All of that has now been repaired. And so if you go in there today, there's no evidence that ever existed. So the FBO is now happy. We have restored our full rent. As you know, we had given them a $500 per month deduction on rent because of the state of the construction there. So this month we received the full rental amount, and by combining the FBO lease contract under the authority of the Airport Authority, we're now able to reinstate our 16 cents per gallon, so that is now back in play. So we'll be getting something like $800 to $1,500, depending on volume, for that month in additional revenues from flowage fee. So that's all excellent news. The focus for me for the past couple of months has been lights, locks, pipes, and inspections. We had 35 lights in the chandelier in the main lobby. 11 of them were working. And so that started me on a path of getting all the light bulbs working at the airport. If you've seen the airport at night, you know we've got approximately 1,000 lights around the runway. Runway lights, taxi lights, pappies, reels, rotating beacons, aviation red markers for the various things that stick up above minimums. And a lot of those were out, and they've not been properly maintained for a while. And so we now believe that we've got everything working around the airfield. The emergency lighting generator was one of the things that had been damaged by the lightning strike that we had back in the fall. And that has taken a long time to get repaired. It was very expensive. It was covered by insurance. That's the good news. But we finally got the last piece of that installed last week. And so we now have the emergency generator system back online, and it actually works now. I'm not sure it ever really worked properly before because the automatic switch in it I don't think was ever configured correctly. So now it's all online, it's automated. If the power goes off and there's a pilot on short final, lights never blink. They come back on and life's good. The 2001 Ford Ranger that had been sitting on the back side of the property for some time is now running. It's been inspected, insured, and tagged, and we've coordinated with the insurance company to authorize that for a crew car. So we now have a crew car for the first time on the field. That is huge for crews flying in that want to run to town to get lunch and just need to borrow a vehicle for a few minutes. Not a great vehicle. It's a 2001 Ford Ranger, but it is transportation, and we're very proud to have it. The Beechjet 400 moved in as planned in January, so that's $740 a month in additional revenue that we're generating for that. So very happy to have them. They're a good tenant. In fact, they're the best kind of tenant to have because they travel a lot, and I think they've only actually been parked on the field for, I don't know, 10 days or so out of the past 60. So very good tenant. And so far they've paid their rent before due each time, so very glad to have them. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions about any of that.
Anybody have any questions?
I do. Terry, when you were talking about completing the FBO, was that never completed when the airport was built? It was just...
No, this was part of the conversion to make it a Part 139 terminal, and that work was stopped in 2013. And so the back side of the terminal was in the process of being converted for baggage handling. And so what we did is we just put the wall back that had been knocked down, and we patched the holes in the wall that had been put in there. It wound up being relatively minor. And if we ever go back in that direction again and we have to reconvert the terminal, it'll take about a day to undo everything that we did at minimal cost. So in the meantime, we've got the space back usable again, and everything is restored to the way it was.
When those walls were, that wall was knocked down and everything and to be converted, was that the airport authority that made that decision, or did we do it?
That predates me. I'd have to research that.
Okay.
That was done in 2013.
Okay. So,
What's the value of the Beach Jet?
Oh, goodness. In excess of $1 million. That particular jet, I'm going to say probably 1.5.
1.5 to 1.7 probably a day.
1.5 million. So a very valuable piece of property that is now on the books. Now, unfortunately, they moved in after January 1. The way taxes work, it's where was the airplane registered on 1 January. So we've got to wait a year to get credit for that in Paulding County. Same thing happens on your regular property taxes. You know, if you buy a house after 1 January, you're responsible for the taxes the next year. But aircraft are taxed in the county in which they are based. So that aircraft is now based in Paulding County, and next year will be a part of our tax digest. And so mine and Carrie's goal between now and then is to get a dozen more just like it parked there, because that is probably the biggest single source of potential revenue for the county itself, is the tax digest for these corporate jets that are in the $1 million price range.
Somewhere around 10% of the value of the aircraft in general,
Yeah.
somewhere around that, so fairly significant
Yep.
tax
Go
revenue.
ahead.
Two more questions. Who owns it, and do they get less expensive fuel buying it from home base there than if
They do get a discount. What the FBO, what Paulding Jet Center does is for based aircraft and for their best customers. Now remember, they are an independent contractor to us, so we don't control their setting of the price of fuel. They're a tenant. But they do offer a discount to their best customers, and what they do is they give you a special credit card that works in the fuel farm, and at the end of the month, instead of charging your card, you just get an invoice for the fuel that you've bought during the month, and you write them a check. And they typically give, I don't know, a 10 or 15% discount for that. And it's convenient for the owners because that way they don't have it hitting their credit card every time they make a purchase. Now, these bigger aircraft, when I pull up to the fuel farm, I get 20 gallons of gas. When this thing pulls up to the fuel farm, it gets 300. So, you know, for one of these bigger airplanes, that's a big deal. Other questions?
So, back to mine, I'm sorry, you don't know who wanted the wall knocked down and who was in the process of redoing the FBO, the terminal there.
As I said, that predates me.
Okay, so it was our responsibility then to put it back.
We own the terminal now, so it's our responsibility. As of December 21st, it became my responsibility to maintain the terminal. And I didn't want to live in the middle of a construction zone.
No, I understand
So
that.
that's why
I was
we put
just
it back together.
asking questions
Yeah.
about, okay.
Oh, that's fine.
Thank you, Terry.
Anything else?
Not for me.
All right, next one is a special use permit for the Spring Fling Celebrate Play. Here you go. Address it.
Here she is, Stormy, you want to address it?
On April 29th this year, I'd like to have that event. It would be our second annual event. We had it last year. What we did was that we brought out vendors. Sam's Club came out. They brought out 6 pools, allowed the kids to play. We brought water guns. We had vendors. We had music, free to the community, but I also gave back. So Children's Cabinet, I gave them over $1,000 worth of school supplies. And the Firefighter Burn Foundation, I gave them a check for $500. So what I try to do is try to keep people in Paulding and give back to our community. So I would ask if you guys would approve so we can do it again. But I also want to incorporate this time having you guys out there, because a lot of people have questions all the time for you. And nowadays it's more hearsay, so if you were there and had your own little setup, they're able to come to you and not feel like they have to listen to an educational speech, but they can come and say, Mayor Austin, can you tell me about so-and-so? So you don't have to feel obligated to put out a spiel, but you can answer questions that are among the community members.
What day?
April 29th, it'll be 11 to 3 o'clock.
And I have coordinated with Paulding Jet Center, and they do support the activity because this is something that potentially could impact their business, but they're very supportive because Joe's a fireman, and he gets some benefit from that as well. So this is something that the airport community that's out there does support.
And this year, we're going to get back to Leadership 27. They're going to be helping the senior center in Paulding. So we'd like to contribute as much as we can to help the senior center here in Paulding County. So this is our big contribution.
What area? We're talking on the ramp, actually, where the event is, right?
In front of the terminal.
In front of the terminal, okay. What kind of security do we have for the rest of the active ramp? Will be going on security?
The FBO will be there monitoring traffic. What we typically do, we don't have a whole lot tied down in the front there. What Joe typically does for these events is he temporarily takes those aircraft and puts them in the hangar, just for protection.
Do we need any support from any support from the Baltimore Sheriff's Department for, because we're going to?
I did it last year. I brought in 4, and we brought in way too many. Way too many. So, and I tried to bring about 3,000 people. So last year, a little boy had passed away, and they had his funeral that day, so we didn't do as much as we normally do. We probably did about 2,000 people. But of course, those 4 police officers, they pretty much sat in the car except for 1. So this year, I'm going to bring 1, but I'm going to bring additional people as far as helping, walking around, and if anybody has questions and stuff. So I'm changing it up a little bit.
And do you need any kind of medical standby support since you're talking to that many people?
No.
Our firemen are all EMT trained. Joe typically is there. He's EMT trained. So we have some unofficial support there. And let me add that Stormy is a regular user of the building and is very familiar with our procedures and facilities and so forth.
I've, in the past 2 years, have done 17 events. And what I try to do is make it accommodating to everybody. So at this event, I want to do a touching truck. So I'm hoping that we have police and fire departments there already, allowing the kids the experience to go and feel and talk and everything.
Yeah, sounds good.
We thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the special use permit.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Another special use permit for advanced rider training course, GWRRA.
Okay, Gail's not able to be with us today, so let me address this one. This is the same motorcycle association that used the infield last year, and very successfully. Some of us my age, we think of hill climbs and motocross and that kind of thing, and we've got a facility where we could do some of that, but that's not what this is. These are low-speed training. They're basically recurrency training for insurance purposes for motorcycle riders to come in and drive a course under controlled circumstances with instructors, and then they get a deduction on their insurance. This is a not-for-profit organization, They are very professional. They took very good care of the facility when they were there last time. And they want to come back and repeat that training. And they need an area that has a large footprint, a large paved footprint for doing this on. So our airport is perfect for it. And we do support these guys, and I hope that y'all will endorse this special use permit.
Is there a motion on special use permit?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to skip 10 and 11. There are a couple of legal questions that I have with the attorney and that we can discuss in closed session prior to action on those. So we'll move on down to item 12. Authorize Terry Tibbetts to start exploratory planning and preliminary design for installing concrete floor in corporate hangar ground floor office space.
Okay, so let me stress here that I'm not asking for money today. What I'm asking for is concurrence. So we now have control of the corporate hangar, and if you've been out there, you know that when you go inside the office space portion of the corporate hangar, it is literally a dirt floor. The foundation was poured around the wall, and so the wall is sitting on a concrete foundation, but the floor itself was never poured because there was never a final design for where the restrooms were going to go, and that determines where you put the drain pipes, which go inside the concrete. So essentially what we have to do is we have to make a determination of what is the best use for the space, where are the restrooms going to go, where would we put the plumbing, and therefore what would be necessary in order to get that concrete pad poured in there. The reason that's important is because that's your long lead item. We can't do anything in that space until we have a concrete pad. Once we have a concrete pad, then we can bring in potential tenants, and within 90 to 120 days, we could have them occupying the space. So I'm trying to short circuit the lead time between good idea and paying tenant. And so I would like you to concur that this is a smart thing to go do and authorize me to go start initial planning that I can then come back and present you with some actual cost data on what it's going to take to get that concrete pad installed. So something like 30, 60 days from now, I would expect to come back and say, here's my plan, and I'll ask for money at that time.
I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion, is there a second? Second, any discussion?
Some of the opportunities in that space, could you elaborate on that?
Well, opportunities in that space, probably the lowest hanging fruit is my desire to bring an avionics company there. In order to bring an avionics company there, they're going to need a storefront, which would allow them to park cars in the parking lot there in front of the big hangar, bring in a customer, present them whatever the plans are for that aircraft modification, and to have an admin person, an office for the engineering staff, whatever. And then that space most likely would be your front space as you look at the hangar from the street entrance, and probably no more than something like about 1,000 square feet. The center part, the best use of that would be a large flight school, a charter operation, cargo, MRO, any one of those things that would need something on the order of 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. My idea for the very back space that opens to the flight line is to put an after-hours pilot's lounge with a restroom there, because today if a pilot flies in after hours to purchase fuel from our self-service fuel pump, the terminal building's locked, the hangar's locked, there's no restroom. And so that, of course, discourages nighttime purchases, which is one of the significant sources of revenue for both us and the FBO. So in order to fix that problem, almost every airport in our area has an after-hours pilot's lounge. Usually they've got a keypad on the front. You enter in a code that pilots know, and they're inside, and they've got a place where they can do flight planning, rest, stretch their legs, debrief the flight with an instructor, all of those kinds of things. So right now, that's kind of what I'm leaning toward, is an infield pilot's lounge, a large flight school, an avionics facility, and then we still have the whole upstairs, 5,000 square feet upstairs. Who knows, restaurant, other businesses, lots of opportunities to expand in that space.
And that was one of the reasons that it was never put in place, was because of that second floor and where all of the plumbing runs would have to
Correct.
go. And if the FBO or another FBO had come on site, and whatever their plans were, it would have been built.
That's right, and anything that we do needs to be as flexible and consistent with future planning as possible. And that's why I'd like some time to think about this and to present you with something rather than just willy-nilly go in and pour concrete. So there is a planning phase that we need to go through, and it won't be perfect because we don't have signed tenants today. It will be our best engineering guess of the best use of that space.
Terry and I have looked at that space on a couple occasions. One of the things that we're going to have to allow for, if we're ever going to use the upstairs, will be an elevator to be ADA compliant. And that would be something we talked about, where we could leave a space, probably up the outside of the building would be the best way to go about doing that. I think you need to do it. All of those are things that he's going to have to work out, so we're not painting ourselves into a corner.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next one is very similar. So our T-hangers are full, and what I would like to do is I'd like to start exploring. In fact, I've already done some work on this, but I'd like you to concur that we do need another row of T-hangers and to begin the exploratory planning for what that might look like. Exactly where would we place them, how many hangars would fit in that location, what are the utilities, impacts, what do we have to move underground to make this feasible. There's some environmental permitting issues, FAA permissions that have to be obtained. We could do all of that for little or no funding. And then at that point, holding all of that paperwork in our hand, we'd be able to either decide we're going to build the T-hangars, we could approach investors to build the T-hangars. We've got several options open to us at that point. But there's 30 to 60 days worth of, maybe more than that, worth of advanced planning that needs to take place before we go out there and start building a T-hangar.
All right, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We do have a need for closed session for real estate personnel and pending and potential litigation purposes. Is there a motion to that effect?
Motion to move to closed session.
Second.
You want to state the reason?
What you just said.
Real estate personnel litigation, have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries, and we'll return shortly. All right, I will reconvene regular session of Paulding County Airport Authority. I will note that we had discussion in executive session on items of real estate personnel and litigation, both pending and potential. Item 10 has been removed from the agenda. No action to be taken. It has been deemed as a legal matter. And with that, is there any action to be taken on item 11?
Item 11, I make a motion to approve the $100,000 zero interest note payable to prime contractors to be paid back at a minimum of $1,000 per month. To fully pay said note is to resolve all outstanding invoices and liabilities relative to the construction of the corporate hangar.
All right, this is part of the swap over of the assets and assumption of debts and responsibilities. You have that motion from Mr. Aston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Kraus. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There are no other items on the agenda for business. Does any member of the board have anything further?
Well, again, I just want to make clear, because I know I have said at these meetings where, when there's special events, they do have to provide insurance, and this time it was not mentioned today. I mean, I know we have our own out here, but then usually they have to provide their own insurance policy as well.
Okay. It's noted, and I think that's part of the
It's part of the
procedure,
process.
part of their application and all.
Okay.
I would like to put it in your mind for next month's meeting. Our former governor, Sonny Perdue, has been appointed as Secretary of Agriculture by President Trump. He is getting ready for the confirmation process. The terminal building was built almost exclusively with state funds that he directed from the Department of Transportation, used their entire aviation budget that year. And I would like to move at the next meeting to name the terminal the Sonny Perdue Terminal Facility. I don't know of any other thing that's been done in the state. He is an avid flyer. He flies in here quite frequently when he's in northwest Georgia. And I think it would be a nice gesture for him and to thank him for his service to the state and now to the country. Anything else to be brought before the board at this time? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The IBA will begin in 5 minutes.